Is it really possible to buy a house with just a 60,000 yuan down payment and even get a house with a rental yield of over 6%? Our team spent nearly 100 hours thoroughly researching all the mining towns across Australia in great detail. Let me start with the conclusion. It's not that you can't buy in mining towns, but you really have to be extremely selective. Out of 100 towns, we think only 1 or 2 are actually worth buying in. At the end of the video, I will explain in great detail how professional buyer's agents like us select towns with high potential for capital growth. But first, let me pour some cold water on this. Don't be fooled by the promise of high returns. When buying in small towns, you must use the mindset I'm about to share. You shouldn't just look at the rental yield. You need to pay even more attention to the town's life. So what do I mean by life? A small town's life refers to its population, its environment, and if it's a mining town, pay special attention to this third point. The most important factor is the mine's break-even point. Keep watching the video, and I'll teach you how to choose the right one in just a moment. Let me start with a negative example, which also happens to have the highest rental yield. It's in Tasmania, in a small town called Rosebery. A house there costs $190,000 and can be rented out for $320 per week, giving a rental yield of 8.7%, almost 9%. If you look around and choose carefully, you might even find a rental yield of 10%. But its population density is a major issue. There are only 750 people. Its main outputs are zinc, aluminum, copper, gold, and silver. It's actually a multi-metal town, and both the gold and silver are extracted together with the zinc. In 2025, the actual mining cost for zinc is $573 per ton, while the current price of zinc in US dollars is $3,300 per ton. Just hearing this, doesn't it sound pretty profitable, right? As long as my cost is only $573, but the zinc I mine can be sold for $3,000. But pay attention here, what's being counted is the total cost, because sometimes gold and silver are also mined together, so that brings down the effective price of your zinc. And this mine has already been in operation for 85 years. It's a deep underground mine. The deeper the mine goes, the higher the cost for ventilation, transportation, and cooling become. It relies on byproducts like gold and copper to offset part of its costs, but it is still an aging mine and is very sensitive to fluctuations in metal prices. If the price of zinc drops, or if it can no longer extract gold and silver, this mine could be shut down. There is also an environmental risk. This area, located in Tasmania, is a high rainfall region. The heavy metal-contaminated soil left behind by a century of mining has caused serious pollution issues. Combined with the extremely cold and damp climate, the cost of maintaining houses here is very high. So the conclusion is, unless you are a local miner living there, don't get involved. Now let's look at it from another angle. What criteria should you use to find a suitable place? Currently, we believe there are only 2 places in Australia worth buying, and these are also the places where we are purchasing. One is in New South Wales and the other is in Queensland. In fact, it's just these 2. But this time, I really can't tell everyone directly because we are buying a lot in these areas, and I'm also concerned about protecting my clients' interests. However, I'm willing to teach you what my fishing rod is. You can use our selection criteria to look for places yourself. Maybe you'll even find more small towns, right? Once you learn this, you'll be able to catch even more fish. So today, I just can't give you the fish directly, right? But I believe I'm teaching you something even greater. Now let's talk about why we chose these 2 places. First, the first place has a population of nearly 20,000. Its main outputs are lead, zinc, and silver. Although it's also an old mining area and the costs aren't low, you need to understand that the city's survival no longer relies solely on mining. This place has a classic economic moat. Today, mining only accounts for 20% of its GDP. It was established in 1883, and its healthcare sector has already become the largest employer in the area. Tourism is extremely developed, and there are also very mature monitoring systems, government oversight, and soil monitoring projects in place. So the risks are known and under control. As for the houses, they cost between $200,000 and $300,000 with a return of 6 to 7%. Although that's not as high as the first place I mentioned, when you buy here, you're actually buying into a regional centre, not just a mining pit. This place is also a necessary stop between Adelaide and Sydney in terms of transportation location. The second place is in Queensland with a population of 18,000. Have you noticed that we still prefer to choose places with a population of around 20,000 and where mining only accounts for 30% of the GDP? Have you noticed that we pay a lot of attention to how much mining contributes to the GDP? This is a vibrant economy. Even without mining, it can still thrive. Its mines can be operated until 2040, and in the future, there are 1.6 billion Australian dollars worth of projects coming in. In 2027, there will be a new zinc mining project, and in 2023, there was also government funding for a national high-voltage power supply project. So, when it comes to investing in mining towns, I think the most important thing to look at is the influx and outflow of population. It's exactly the same as with big cities. You need to see, first of all, whether there are a lot of people in this place, whether the absolute number is high, and whether there is natural population growth. And the second point is, if the town you're looking at, whether it's a livestock town, or for example in Victoria like Moonimura, which is the main supplier of milk and even beef for all of Melbourne, a livestock town, the main thing you need to consider is if it loses its primary economic driver or industry, can it still thrive? So you need to look at the diversity of its GDP and economic output. Ideally, the leading sector, whether it's mining, livestock, or some other special use, should not account for more than 30% of the local economy. If these two conditions are met, and at the same time the vacancy rate is reasonable, then we believe these small towns are worth considering. On the other hand, if the conditions I just mentioned are not met, or if the local mining costs are much higher, even exceeding today's market price. Let me add one more thing, especially regarding the second point I just mentioned. For example, if the mining cost for silver is $25 per ounce, and although the price of silver has fluctuated over the past 2 months, at its peak exceeding triple digits, but today it has dropped back to around $75, you'll find that its profitability, its margin, is still very substantial. This ensures the mine's health very well, and it won't be impacted by countries outside the international market where mining costs are even lower. Although those places are cheaper, their production capacity is also limited, so there will still be a large international demand for silver. And silver as a metal is different from gold. It fits the current development of artificial intelligence and solar photovoltaic panels. It's an industrial metal that gets consumed. So we believe that places where silver can be mined are more likely to retain value and carry lower risk than places where gold is mined.